Okay, so the first thing you want to do is set it equal to 0. So we have to subtract that 4 from both sides. So that gives you negative 10 n squared minus n minus 7 equals 0. So now that it's set equal to 0, this is A, this is B, this is C. Your discriminant is B squared minus 4AC. It's not the entire quadratic formula. So when you see it on the test, I only want you to do that part underneath the square root. So I've been teaching for 17 years, 10 years in pre-calc. Here is a very common mistake. Negative 1 squared minus 4 times A times C. That will not give you the right answer. If you type it in your calculator like that, you will not get the right answer. What am I missing? You have to put parentheses around the negative 1. So when you type that in your calculator, go ahead and type it in just like that. And what do you get? Negative 279. Who agrees that it's negative 279? All right, so what does that tell you? How many solutions do we have and what type? 2 imaginary. Anytime this number is negative, you have 2 imaginary solutions. That means that this parabola, we're going to graph a little bit later, but this parabola has no x-intercepts. That's what that's telling me. I have 2 imaginary solutions, no real solution. All right, any questions or comments about that? So on Friday, you have your first skills check. So let me explain to you what a skills check is. It's like an in-class assignment. It's not a test. It's not a quiz. It goes in the 20% category. It's a chance for you to see if you are on pace with what you should know for the first test. Okay? You cannot use your notes, but it's a chance for you to see. You get 2 skills checks like every 2 weeks. I always drop the lowest one. So just kind of keep that in mind. Our first one is on Friday. On that skills check, you have 3 questions. The first one is factoring. The second one is the quadratic formula, which you should have memorized. Well, actually, I think I'll put it on the skills check for you, but it's not going to be on the quiz. You have to have it memorized for the quiz. The third one is completing the square, and that's what we're going to learn right now, how to complete the square. Raise your hand if you know how to complete the square. I don't know. I know they teach it in Honors Algebra 2. I really don't remember if we taught it in regular Algebra 2. All right, so it's going to be new. So don't cry though. If you don't understand it, we're going to practice it today and tomorrow and Thursday, okay? All right. All right. So, completing the square. Go ahead, write down the title and glue this down, this little box down here. And I am like, I don't know how I missed this, but this first one, it should actually say equals C. So can you change that on your little cutout? So I'll give you a minute to copy this down. We're going to learn a new method today. This is a new method. So go ahead and glue that down. Okay. So the first step is to take it. Step number one is to have, you always want to have your A and B and then equal to C. So that's step number one. Have your A and your B equal to C. Step two, this only applies when A is not 1. Okay, what is the A value in this quadratic? 1. So we can really skip over step 2. So now let's go to step 3. Step 3, add B over 2 squared to both sides. So what is B? 4. So I want you to take 4 divided by 2 and square it. So figure out what that number is. 4 divided by 2 squared. 4. So that's the number I'm going to add to both sides. So I have the x squared plus 4x equals 21. And then I'm going to add 4. And then I'm going to add 4. All right, so now we're on step 4. Step 4 is to factor down the left. So that would be this side right here. So we're going to factor that down. In order to factor it down, I need two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to 4. What are those two numbers? So really, we could write this as x plus 2 times x plus 2, but that's not how we do that in math. If it's the same thing, right? Instead of writing x plus 2, what can I write? X plus 2 squared. So I'm going to write x plus 2 squared equals, and then what do you get here when you add these two numbers together? 25. So now we're on number 5, step 5. Take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of this side and the square root of the right side. Whenever you square a square root, or you square root a square, I should say, these are what we call inverse operations. They cancel each other out, like adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing. So it's just going to cancel out the parentheses, and it's going to leave you with x plus 2. Does anyone know what the square root of 25 is? 5. Now, don't forget, though, and that's why I put it here, don't forget the plus minus. So the square root of 25 is actually equal to plus and minus 5. So your last step is separate and solve. So you have x plus 2 equals 5. X plus 2 equals negative 5. Go ahead and solve both of those for x. That is the method that we're going to practice today and tomorrow. So go ahead and solve that to get your 2 solutions. So we're going to subtract the 2. So x equals 3 and x equals negative 7. So that is the third method. Can you get an A on the test without knowing how to do this? Absolutely. This is just one question, right? I don't want you to get all stressed out. It's okay. We're going to keep practicing it. It is okay. Any questions? Y'all kind of loud over there. It's a distraction. I may have to do a seating chart. I may have to. A little later. Okay, but not today because I'm busy. All right, so now let's do another one. Go ahead and copy down this example. We're going to practice this process again. All right, so we got x squared plus 2x minus 73 equals negative 2. So again, this first square It's on the side of my desk. So that should be equal C. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by moving this over. All right, because the only thing that I can have on the left is A and B. Just A and B. This has to go across. So that's a minus 73. So the opposite of, so how am I going to get rid of the negative 73? Add it. So we're going to add 73 to both sides. So we got 71. Okay, so now we're on step, we don't have to worry about step 2 because A is 1. So we're going to skip down to step 3. B is 2. So you're going to take B over 2 and square it. So 2 divided by 2 squared, which is 1. So we're going to add a 1 here and add a 1 here. All right, so now we're on step 4. Let's go ahead and factor this down. We're going to factor this down right here. So in order to factor that down, I need 2 numbers that multiply to 1 and add to 2. So that's going to factor down to x plus 1 times x plus 1. Which is going to give you x plus 1 squared equals 71 plus 1, which is 72. So now we're ready to take our square root of both sides, which is going to give you x plus 1 equals plus and minus the square root of 72. So now let's take a little detour to something that we should have learned back in the day. Simplifying a square root. So I have here some perfect squares. 72, like at the last example, we got lucky because we got 25. 25 is a perfect square, okay? But now we got 72. 72 is not in this list. Would you agree? But there is a number in this list that is a factor of 72. So what is the largest number in my list that will divide into 72? 36. 36 times what is 72? So you're going to break this apart to x plus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 36 times 2. So x plus 1 equals plus or minus 6 square root of 2. So I'm going to pause right there. Does everyone see how we got where we are right now? So our last step, we would normally separate it and solve it. But because we have this 6 root 2, we don't need to separate it. All we need to do is subtract that 1 to solve it for x. So I need to subtract the 1. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So my final answer, you can write it 2 different ways. You could say negative 1 plus or minus 6 root 2. Or you can write it as x equals 6 root, x equals plus or minus 6 root 2 minus 1. They're the same answer. I'll take either one. And that is how you complete the square. Any questions about how we work through that one? Because it wasn't a perfect square. Yeah, we got 72. So, all right, so now let's do one that doesn't have an A value of 1. Let's go ahead and copy down C. And we're going to work through this one together. All right, so the first thing you want to do is move this across the equal sign. Whenever you're doing, this is the only method where you don't want it to equal 0. Factoring, it needs to equal 0. Quadratic formula, it needs to equal 0. Completing the square, it needs to equal C. So we need to move that C across. So we're going to subtract it from both sides. So that would be 3x squared minus 24x equals negative 15. So now we actually have an A value that's not 1. So you see where it says step 2, factor it out of the left. So I'm ignoring this negative 15. I'm only going to take that 3. I'm taking 3 out of these two numbers right here. So when I factor out a 3, that comes to the front. And that leaves me with x squared minus 8x. And then that's a negative 15. Yes. Is it Amani? Amari, yes. Okay, you just factor out the A. So right here, yeah, you don't factor out the GCF. You're only factoring out A. Only A, not the GCF, just A. Okay, so what is my B value now? Now that I took out the 3, what's my new B value? Negative 8. So you're going to take that negative 8, divide it by 2, and square it. So figure out what that number is. This is where it gets a little tricky though. It's positive 16. But here's the thing. This is, and I need to probably modify my directions because for step 3, it's different when A, well, okay. So I'm adding 16 right here. But if you think about it, I'm not really adding 16. Because everything in this parentheses is being multiplied by what? 3. So on this side, I'm not adding 16. Remember, to keep an equation balanced, whatever I add on one side, I have to add the same thing on the other side. So in order to keep my equation balanced, I need to add 16 times 3 on the other side. So I'm really adding 3 times 16. So let's go ahead and factor this down. So 3 is on the outside. What does that factor down to? Two numbers that multiply to give you a positive 16, but adds to a negative 8. Negative 4, negative 4. So this is going to be x minus 4 squared. And go ahead, pick up your calculator. Take negative 15 plus 3 times 16. And we get 33. Okay. So now we're ready to start solving it. But before we take the square root, we have to get rid of this 3. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. Which gives you x minus 4 squared equals 11. Because 33 divided by 3 is 11. And now we're going to take our square root. So we have x minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 11. So 11 is not a perfect square, but can I simplify it? Can I divide it by 4 or 9? No, 11 is actually a prime number. So we're just going to leave it alone. We can't do nothing with it. So my last step to solve for x is to do what? Not subtract 4, add 4. So my final answer is x equals positive 4 plus or minus the square root of 11. And that is our new method. All right, so let's go through. Now is your turn. I want you to try to do it on your own. Okay? So go ahead, copy down question 1. And I want you to complete the square. And then I'm going to come around and check. So we'll start with an easy one that has an a value of 1. So just try to complete the square. All right, so go ahead and check your work against mine. Did you already move this down or no?
I ain't know we were supposed to get down. I was in the restroom.
I remember that, Julian. Boy, oh boy. All right, any questions? Yes, I hate when it's not X. Yeah, if you change it to X, that's fine. All right, let's kind of go through it together. Okay, did I put a 36 on the last one? No, so the square root of 36 is 6, not the square root of 6. So, hold on, did I do it wrong? Oh yeah, so it should be, so the square root of 36 is just a 6. So we take it out of the square root.
Yeah, I think I just accidentally.
Oh, okay. No, I've been messing up today, so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't mess up. Okay, so we have, the first step is to add the 13, which gives you 23. And then we take this number, divide it by 2 and square it, which gives us 49. So I added 49 on this side and on the right side. When you factor this down, you get v minus 7 squared equals 72. Take the square root of both sides. This is not a perfect square. I didn't show, but that 72 actually broke down to 36 times 2, which is how I got 6 root 2. And then your last step is add 7. And this would be your final answer. What'd you say, Marquita? No, it's not negative 49. So here, anytime, so going back to what I said, if you square a negative, you have, did you use your calculator? Okay, so no, it's always positive. Anytime you square a number, it should be positive. Did you ask me why this was not negative? Wait, what did you say?
It doesn't matter. I understand.
Okay, sorry. All right, let's do one more, y'all. So this one is a little harder though, okay? But I just want you to try. Just try. And then we'll end there. First step though is add the 85. You gotta move that 85 over. get two numbers. Shouldn't be any square roots or anything. First step would be to take out the 10. Divide both of these by 10. And start over. So you divided 20, what's 20 divided by 10? So you divide both of these by 10. So 20 divided by 10. And then you gotta take that number and divide by 2 squared. Good, start. You have to take this one out, so you're gonna divide both of these by 10. Factor is division. No, just what's on the left. Only, so maybe instead of saying factor, you can say divide. Only the left though. 2R. There's still 2R though. The 10 didn't go away, it's just in front. It's just factored out in front. Now you're ready to continue. Half of b squared. This one is tricky. I mean, like, I honestly only expect like 3 or 4 people to be able to do this. This is our first time doing it. This is something new. So I don't want you to feel like that is correct. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm feeling. Square root of 9 is not 9.
Oh, it's 3. Right.
All right, only because we're kind of running low on time, I'm gonna put this up here for you to look at it, kind of see how I work through it. And again, tomorrow's class, we're gonna practice this some more. Yes. Okay, give me a second. All right, so the first thing you want to do is divide both of these by 10, only these two by 10. So this 10 comes out. So I have r squared minus 2r equals 80. And then to figure out this 1, I took half of negative 2 squared. And that's how I got the 1. But on this side, notice I didn't add 1, I added 10 times 1. So you have 10, this factors down. You got to factor this one down to r minus 1 squared. Divide both sides by 10. Take the square root. Now we have a perfect square. So the square root is just 3. Separate and solve.